First, we want to be a force for public good. And to do that effectively, we know that we need to think about the issues that matter. That's first. Secondly, we're encouraging our members to be champions of ESG in the organizations and public entities that they work in. It affects how the Sri Lankan economy can be resilient and can be competitive into the future. ESG is core to how we see our role. So first, we want to be a force for public good. And to do that effectively, we know that we need to think about the issues that matter to the economies where we've got members, students, and where we've got officers. So in terms of commitment, we're committed to the UN SDGs as an organization. That's first. Secondly, we're encouraging our members to be champions of ESG in the organizations and public entities that they work in. And thirdly, we're imbibing ESG and inculcating that into the curriculum in terms of preparing future members, but more importantly, supporting our members with continuous professional development opportunities. So those are some of the areas where we're making sure that the mandate and the ambitions represented by the 17 SDG goals are incorporated across the value chain, as it were. As an organization, we're also are very committed to implementing 9 of those goals that are very much aligned with the sector we find ourselves and our operations globally. So the Accounting for a Better World initiative and the campaign, it's all about looking at what are the core elements of what would drive a sustainable future. So, and there's a piece of research that backs that up, and it calls out areas where we need to focus on into the future to be able to deliver not just the net zero economies that everybody's talking about, but societies that work and is equitable for everyone, a fair society. So issues like building a resilient economy, that's very important for a market such as Sri Lanka, right? You want to ensure that the market's resilient with all of the macroeconomic issues, with inflation, and, commodity prices and talent challenges. It affects how the Sri Lankan economy can be resilient and can be competitive into the future. There are areas such as advancing standards and regulation. So there are new standards and sustainability that becomes effective next year globally. There's also local frameworks that organizations need to think about in Sri Lanka. And as an organization, we're supporting that in terms of policy implementation, providing accountants with the skills and the competencies they need to deliver that. There's a piece there around encouraging entrepreneurial growth. So there's a piece around transforming the public sector. So there's a lot of conversations around, corruption and governments not doing what they need to do, and the governance not being right at different parastatals or agencies of a government. We believe at ACCA that we need to ensure that this professionalization of the entire public sector, public finance management is an area where we're focused on largely globally. But more importantly, it's also about ensuring that, you build sustainable businesses. So you need to ensure that businesses inculcate ESG to attract foreign direct investment, which we need a lot of to be able to overcome some of the current challenges locally here. And so those are some of the key elements that have been called out there, but also not forgetting building trust and creating transparency. So it's important for the stock market, but also for the entire economy that there's trust in financial operations. Yeah, so we always collaborate with governments. So they're partners. So when we see our role in society, again, this is driven by our purpose and our ambition. So we want to be able to develop the accountancy profession that the world needs. So, the profession here in Sri Lanka, we want to develop that but that's from the lens of being a force for public good. And so to be a force for public good, we need to work with governments, not just the Ministry of Finance, which we have an amazing relationship with, but also market participants, the stock exchange, corporates. Most of the organizations that we work with, some of them are part of what we call an approved employer scheme. We also want to work with, industry groups to advance policy, to advance standards, transparency, ethics, and what have you. I think the main thing to call out here is that our members and students work in this industry. So that's the powerful way in which we play our role in terms of supporting this partner. So it's through our members, encouraging them to be champions, like I mentioned earlier, but also having a seat at the table, having that relationship at the highest level. For me, I think our reach, the fact that we've got presence in over 100 countries in terms of offices globally, but more importantly, in 178 countries, we have members and students. That means what's happening here is not isolated. We have markets that have similar issues, and we can bring that to the table and share with the government here in Sri Lanka what we've seen in other markets that might be relevant here locally, where the demography is similar, where the macroeconomic challenges are also similar. And so ACCA, we use our relevance and our reach to add value to our local partners and around the world also. So when we talk about sustainability, accountants are leading, and rightfully so. We believe accountants have the skill set. They have the experience based on our understanding of things like accrual, materiality, and reporting. We've always been in that position to report to boards. So it's pivotal for that movement that accountants lead the way. But accountants can't do it all. The data rests with everybody, from media, public relations, to community engagement, to engineering, to logistics across the organization. So there needs to be that multi-stakeholder approach where everybody brings all of these data points from across the organizations, and the accountants in our finance people help in storytelling and presenting the information in ways that will be relevant to the board and other stakeholders like community, whatever part of the organization or part of the public entity or public office that you work in, to support the movement towards non-financial reporting. And when we say non-financial reporting, we're talking about having data and non-financial indicators that will cut across environmental impacts, social impact, and governance impact. So how are we using resources? How are we empowering women? Opportunities are still rare for female gender globally. How are we championing to ensure that everybody has equal access to opportunity and also have the opportunity to rise to the best of their abilities, not being driven by the agenda. So that's something that everybody can contribute to, not just accountants, and also governance, to ensure that government is held accountable. So for ACCA, over 100 years now, so it's going to be 120 years for us in a few months. We were the first professional accounting body to think about how to incorporate ESG in the qualification back in the 1900s. We're the first professional body, not just accounting, professional body to start reporting on integrated report. So we started out even when there was no framework. And when the framework came along, we started using the framework. A number of our resources globally, locally, are part of, either seconded to some of these organizations. Our CEO used to be the vice chair of the IRRC, International Integrated Reporting Council. So we're very committed to non-financial reporting as a whole. We support that work recently with the International Sustainability Standards Board, which, as you're probably aware, have issued now the Sustainability Disclosure Standards, which is part of the IFRS disclosures. We've supported that. We're part of the London launch and also around the world where our teams were there to present. We've been working with other similar organizations, CFA. We co-developed a certificate in climate finance, and we've got our own sustainability reporting and integrated reporting certificates that we've been promoting over the years. Again, the focus is on capacity building, developing the future talents. So it's part of the qualification. We're one of the few organizations in the UK, for example, that's helping the government with ensuring that as part of the curriculum, we implement ESG. So we've done that successfully, not just in the UK, but around the world. So these are some of the areas where we've turned that commitment into action and also ensure that our members and future members are equipped, because we know that these are the drivers of change. If we do not prepare our members and future members, they'll be out of touch and they won't be relevant and they won't have the skills that are required in the modern day finance environment. Yeah, there are a few challenges. I think one of them also, apart from capacity, is also the barriers, to change. People don't want to change, right? It's always easy to keep doing things the way they are. So I can speak even for accountants and finance people when, many years ago when I started talking about sustainability personally, accountants didn't want to listen because, you probably feel you're exposed because you're not used to that. You understand numbers, but now we're trying to make you go into non-financial reporting and you're like, I'm not sure I'm good at that. So it's the resistance to change, which you expect anytime you want to introduce something new. And I think that's an opportunity for organizations, governments to support that change. And that's where capacity building again comes in, where if people feel they have the right skills, then it helps them overcome that inertia, right? That initial challenge of coming on board with these ideas. So that's number one. Number two is also the cost, right? So for every new thing, there's always challenges around, do we get consultants to help us work on this? How do we navigate the extra cost of reporting that comes with it? Yeah, especially for the SMEs. We know that, most times SMEs are cash trapped. They're trying to grow the organization and there might be challenges with capital allocation. So what we've done is to provide free tools they can use on some of these issues. So we've supported SMEs globally with some of the guides and guidelines and resources that they would need on things like climate finance and sustainability. That's another way we've supported and tried to eliminate some of those challenges. I think also the challenge also would be in terms of best practice, what's out there, how do we know what other people have done? And we've also, through our roundtables and sharing resources on our professional insight, we provide this best case approach and share stories from matured organizations or economies that are at the forefront of implementing some of these things to update with this. So those are some of the challenges. I know I've not touched on all of them, but those are key challenges we've seen and experienced. Yeah, so there are many frameworks. I probably don't know all of them. There's a UN Global Compact. A number of people use GRI, Global Reporting Initiative. That's quite mainstream and common. The good thing, though, is that the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation, the IFRS Foundation, set up this body, the ISSB, International Sustainability Standards Board, who over the last 2 years have now released their standards. So the idea is that we can have one source of truth. And so hopefully in the future, we can have that convergence. And most people, even though they have all of these frameworks, which they still use and are still relevant, would have one source of truth. And it helps with comparability, right? The challenge with having many, divergent frameworks is you don't know what is what. If you're using a different framework, another company might be using another one. For investors and stakeholders, it might be challenging to tell the difference or to be able to compare results in terms of non-financial or sustainability results for companies. But with the new S1 and S2 IFRS disclosure, it's going to take a while, right? First, for organizations to adopt it and over time to start reporting appropriately. But, in the next decade or so, hopefully we can have that comparability. Like I mentioned earlier, we feel it's in the best interest of the profession that we have one set of high quality standards that is global in its appeal. But I wouldn't say we don't support others. And we also support others. We've been on the IRRC board for a while. GRI is one also that we support. Whatever moves the needle forward in terms of the conversation about non-financial reporting, you'll find out we'll be much ready to support. I think the one that comes home fast is one of the projects that's going on in India, which is a neighboring country in the region. And our members there are working to help build financial literacy in high schools. And they've developed this animated learning with characters that young people can understand. And they are going through this program with young people in high school or secondary, as you may call it. And at the end of the day, I was there in person to hand over certificates for those that completed. And you can imagine they did that all through COVID. So it was challenging for the young people as well as the teachers that were developing this course. But it's a good way where our members, again, not paid, they're all volunteers, working to bring very complex accounting and finance principles to young people from an early age, such that when they grow up, they can manage their finances better. Potentially, it also helps the country, and that's a useful example of, members taking on that initiative, being responsible citizens, but playing a bigger role outside what organizations. In places like Malaysia, our members have gone to the reefs there. They've reconstructed that and put the ACCA logo. That's all driven member events, committed to the environment. They've got women network in Malaysia. They've got women network in Nigeria. They recently been sharing ideas on how to move that social part of ESG to ensure that we have women in the workforce, but more importantly, that they can also rise, to the highest level, which has been challenging, as we know, in corporate world, whether it's in Sri Lanka or around the world. We still have less women on boards. We still have less women representation as CEOs and all of that. But to see our members really tackling, the biggest challenges, complex problems globally, I'm proud of our members. I'm proud of our young people also for what they're doing in their communities and around the world.